What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Here comes third part of making swarm malls, coloring walls, physics adjustment and a lot of UI menus. Let's start with coloring walls. It will not be fully random, but only randomly choosing between 12 basic color materials. Materials define how objects look. Their properties are defined by shaders. Shaders are GPU code that will not be covered in this video. The only change we will do right now is only changing colors on different materials we will randomly set on each ball spawn. Then let's create spawn color CS script. In this script we need reference to renderer component and array of materials we'll randomly choose from at spawn. Of course, it's great to check for null reference on renderer, and array can be skipped from this check. Then in Unity start method we randomly select from listed colors one to set for object having the script. I chose to use C#, not Unity random generation, since it is more universal one. Then we change materials to actually have colors their name suggests, and we attach spawn color.cs script to sphere prefab and set values to serialized field variables. We can drag game object to renderer field as long as it contains renderer component, and we can multi-select materials to array serialized field. Test play shows random color work. So yeah, this task is done. Next thing to work on I decided was to increase speed of balls, cause I felt they were too slow. One approach that did not work was to increase mass. And due to physics increase in mass don't significantly increase falling speed. Another approach that didn't work is to increase height from which balls drop. Actually it worked slightly but was still too insignificant. Final approach that did something was to increase ramp size and make starting speedup time longer, so the balls have time to accelerate while not having to wait very long for it. Supposedly physics work like that: the longer the object falls or slides, the faster it gets. As for editor work, only increasing size of side walls and ramp and adjusting their positions. As for code work, there is some new script speedup time CS attached to same object as cheats.cs. So two serialized field float variables underscore faster time multiplier, how many times we speed up time, and underscore faster time in-game duration, for how long the speed up lasts in-game time, not real time. I think names are self-explanatory. Final values are 3 times faster for 30 seconds in-game time. Then we need serialized field reference to player cheats script and of course null reference check in awake. In start we check if player cheats.cs set timescale already. If it did, we don't want to overwrite it, so we quit with return keyword. If player cheats.cs didn't set timescale, we set it to our underscore faster time multiplier variable and then start timer coroutine to revert it back to 1 after 30 seconds of in-game time. If you wanted 30 seconds real time, there is a real time version of wait for a second. I think I introduced coroutines before, so that's that. Player cheats.cs also was changed. We exposed timescale variable for public read use. Code syntax is different from other variables, it's field syntax. Fields are created with get and set keywords, or only get keyword. They allow us to have different access rights for read and write. In this case, we can read value from outside of this class, but we cannot change it from outside. That is what private set means. After field syntax, we can assign default value of 1. General coding convention is for public read fields or variables to start from uppercase letter. One last note about it: serialized field Unity attribute needs additional keyword field to properly deal with field. Then in awake we set timescale to our serialized field value, and there is comment that it's a hack. It kinda perfectionist, but I prefer to keep value changes in start and variables creation in awake. But since we need it to be set in other start method, we cannot rely on player cheats.cs start to be called before speeduptime.cs start. Execution order of start methods in different mono behaviors is random. And that's it for increasing ball's speed and speedup time. Next are some few fast player speed tweaks. First was 1000 multiplier, that felt too slow. I've tried 10,000, that was way too fast. Final value I was happy with was 3000. By the way, probably having variable in inspector set to thousands is not optimal. Ideally, values would be meaningful starting from 1, but that's an issue for not now. Next was to adjust player physics so they make more sense. I've increased ball spawn cooldown to 10 seconds so I can peacefully test player physics interaction. First rotation on hitting wall, which doesn't hurt player. As you may know, we can change Unity components values in runtime, and these changes are reflected until game session ends. I've played with values of linear and angular damping. Damping is physics force that goes in direction to slow down or stop movement. Angular is well for rotation and linear is for movement. Final values I chose were 2 for linear and 5 for angular. Next thing to work on was to make score increase only after startup speedup is done, so we don't get points for no effort. In speedup.cs I've introduced bool field public get private set named to underscores its sped up. We set it to true on start and we set it to false after speedup is done. Simple. In score.cs we create serialized field of type speeduptime.cs with same name, and of course null reference check in awake for it. In update methods, that is called every frame of object being enabled, we check if game is sped up in speeduptime.cs, and if it's not, we set it to game time times 10. Well, this version is bugged in only delay score being set improperly. While it needs to be decreased by time game was sped up, game was playtested in meantime to see that issue. One quick change to score.cs to set score to 0 instead of -1 at start. I've set value to -1 in UI object to know it's on invalid state. And then the rest of changes. If game is sped up, frame time is added to each frame and stored. After speedup ends, game time stored speedup lasted will be deducted from score. By the way, this version is still bugged because time that increases the score is multiplied by 10, but decreasing its value is not. I believe it will be fixed later. I guess now comes one of my parts of this video. Making UI menus, starting with Start menu. Let's create new scene named Start menu. In this new scene we disable directional light since we don't need it. Then we create button of type text mesh pro. When creating anything that requires canvas parent component, that component with new object is created automatically. In File, Build Profiles, Scene List, we need to add current scene for it to be included in build game in future. On top of button, we create new image UI game object. Expand it to entire screen using transfer tool shortcut T and change its color to bluish. It's our background. In button text, we change its text to start, then create vertical layout game object above it and adjust its size and position to center. Then duplicate button with Ctrl D shortcut. Now let's create text game object for mask score in horizontal layout. On left max score text, on right number of it. Let's prefab entire UI. Needed to visit Unity documentation and forum sites to finish it. First version looks like this. 2 serials fields buttons for references and null checks for them. String scene serials field variable with check if it's empty or null. or white sign. Of course, this way is very error-prone, but it's what we get for now. And in start, we can use buttons, on click, event that happens on click, add listener, adding let's call it function that waits for click, subscribes sort of to click event. What we have inside is called lambda or anonymous function. Brackets contain parameters that add listener provides, which are none. Alright, we decide what we want to happen after click. Start button calls scene manager to load scene by its name. Quick button quits game with static function we have already. After playtesting, it actually works. I've wanted to safeguard ourselves from scene name that doesn't exist, some forum search and trace, and this is the version that works. Now comes creating pause menu, and it will be more complicated. In our main game scene, which I still have named as sample scene, in UI game object we add a new canvas game object. It's good for optimization to keep non-related canvas game objects separate, cause Unity updates all elements on canvas when one of them needs to be updated. We change canvas scalar component to scale with screen size and then save its settings to preset. Presets allow us to have specific settings per Unity component saved in one place, and then easily apply them to all components of given type when we want. Then we create pause menu.cs script we will work on later and attach it to canvas game object. Next, full work on UI visuals begin. Adding background image on full canvas, full black, half transparent. Then adding game object for vertical layout for buttons and added a button as child to vertical layout. In vertical layout, every numeric value is set to 0 and child force expand both width and height are true, and control child size width is true as well. Then we change text font size to 60 in button and set text to resume. Then duplicate it with Ctrl-D shortcut 2 times and they distribute evenly in vertical layout. I've changed text for middle button to restart and bottom button to quit, and then decrease vertical layout game object height so buttons get closer. In player input.cs we add header attribute of pause menu, 2 reference serialized fields for pause menu.cs and input action reference for pause menu button input. We null reference check both of them. Then we create set method and assign action to be called on pause menu input perform, and it is to show pause menu UI game object. Then in input system project settings we create new input for pause and assign them to keys escape and P. Two player input component serialized fields we created, we drag pause menu game object and pause menu input asset. Then we modify pause menu.cs script. We create on enable and on disable Unity methods. On enable stops time, sets time scale to 0 and shows cursor. On disable does the opposite, set time scale to 1 and hides cursor. Then we create three serialized field buttons, variables, and check follow null reference in awake. And one more serialized field for scene name, and check it for null or white space, and if a scene exists. I did it separately so we have different errors depending on type of error. And by the way, since this is the second time we are doing it, we could wrap it in general static function so it is in one place in case of need of changes. After that, in start method we use all three buttons to add listeners or click. For resume button we just disable pause menu game object, triggering on disable. Or restart we load scene we provide in string variable inspector. Loading scene in single scene mode is the easiest way to restart level, but slightly ugly one. On quit, we quit the game. Back to inspector, where we assign buttons and scene name. After playtesting, I've renamed buttons in prefab mode to what they are: resume, restart, and quit. And in code, I've made sure to unload current scene first and then load it. So this was temporary too. Now comes another version that can probably be done without providing scene name inspector, using scene manager get active scene name as parameter to load scene. using sceneManager.getActiveScene brackets .name as parameter to load scene. Now, after playtesting and clicking Restart button game, quit itself. To debug it, I've added Unity engine.debug.log brackets quotes quitup to track where it comes from. Debug.log shows code come from playerphysics.cs on destroy, which was triggered by reloading the scene. So we move it to destructible process destroy, and after that restarting works, but entering pause menu after restarting made a bunch of errors appear. At this point, I took a small break from pause menu and focused on renaming project for fun, and because I finally had idea how to name it. Turns out it's quite simple, unlike in Unreal. We only need to rename main folder, change it in project settings, and regenerate code solution. There was a good post on Unity forums about that. Also, during this break, I learned that on Windows 11, I can force Show More menu by Shift plus right click. And we open git bash and stage and commit name change. By the way, I was using git regularly on this project, I just skipped showing it mostly. Back to UI issues, opening pause menu after restart errors. The final solution to this issue was to dedicate separate methods for showing pause menu method. It allows us to have a reference to event method we call when pause menu input happens, and then to unsubscribe to toggle pause menu method on destroy. What was happening was that on opening pause menu, after reloading, reference to load pause menu was used. I am not sure why exactly it happened that way, because in theory, everything should have been destroyed on scene allowed, including pause menu input action event, but it wasn't, it seems. Anyway, subscribe insert for dedicated method and unsubscribe on destroy. So next I tweak a little bit our player dev so we can experience the ragdoll. In code you see now, I've introduced coroutine with waiting, inside given amount of time and then quitting the game. But this version has a bug that we can see in playtest. Game doesn't ever quit, because object calling coroutine and then quitting is destroyed before our quit function executes. Meaning its code can never get there because object no longer exists. The second version will be working. Destroy is placed after wait time. You might think that destroy still happens before quitting the game, but not really. It's Unity quirk, but this Unity method is not called immediately. It will be called at the end of frame after frame code is executed already, meaning quitup will execute before destroy. To be honest, we don't really need to destroy at all since we quit up anyway. Quick playtest. Now we begin working on main menu button in pause menu. Starting with code, in pause menu.cs we add serialize field button for main menu and serialize field scene name, and we check for null reference for button and empty name check we copy from start menu.cs. Also, I found different way to check if scene exists. Scene utility.getBuild index by scene path with name as parameters will return -1 if scene doesn't exist in build settings in editor. I'm quite experimenting in this series, trying to get stuff working in many different ways. Feel free to choose whatever you like the most. In start method we duplicate reset button listener and provide our new main menu name to load scene. Let's quickly create button for it. Just duplicate reset button, change its name and text and reference it in pause menu.cs, as well as providing start menu scene name. And that's it. Playtest and it works. Also one quick extra widget. In UI score, place for the best score value. Below score we just duplicate it and change its name and text to best score and value to NA, meaning invalid state. Next comes configuration popup. We create canvas in UI game object. Notice that canvas scaler has our preset values set automatically. To keep on using good habits, we create a game object container for horizontal layout for our two buttons. Yes and no. And text above it, are you sure? Question marks. Then we actually create vertical layout for our question text and horizontal layout. Under horizontal layout, we place two buttons. In horizontal layout, we set control, child size, both width and height. Also, we have child for expand width and height, but this is kinda standard for us now. In horizontal layout, we only have child for expand height, letting width to be not expanded automatically. There were some position and size adjustments using transfer tool, but I think providing precise values for visuals is useless. We set buttons text and game object names to yes and no. Then in Canvas game object for config popup UI, we add image component covering entire screen with semi-transparent black background. We adjust text and buttons size to look like this. Then we drag Canvas game object to project tab, so it becomes a prefab. Once UI looks good enough, we go for making a script that will make it work good. So in scripts folder, let's create config popup.cs. I copied content from pause menu.cs and then deleted most of it to only leave yes and no button serialized fields and null reference checks. In editor prefab mode, let's drag and drop buttons to inspector serialized fields. Then in pause menu.cs, let's create serialized field for config popup and null reference check it. Also, I recommend why do I have to unsubscribe it on destroy, cause I really wanted. Then back to config popup.cs, I've added action private property. I think I missed event keyword before action. Event keyword is a good habit and limits what we can do with action. But since I missed it, let's not dwell too long on that. Action is C# type of variable. It is a reference type and can be used to notify when something happens. It can be invoked, meaning it can notify all classes which have access to it, and it can be subscribed to, notifying all interested classes about that it was invoked. It's like reverse call of a function. Instead of calling something directly, we notify something that it was called and let that something do whatever it needs to do. Action type is very start of event-driven code architecture that allows things to be called without having explicit references. Actually, UI buttons we did already, function like action types. We subscribe to onClick event, and when click is performed, whatever we want to happen happens in our code. So that's basic of event and actions. Other than that, we add listeners to our two buttons on start, waiting for them to be clicked and setting UI inactive. And on _yes button, calling _on yes action. I've made a mistake during the application having two _no buttons and no _yes button being used, but soon it will be fixed. Then there is another method that needs to be called somewhere, invoke config check. It will be called from outside, hence public modifier. It sets our UI game object active and sets on yes button click whatever action that is provided indirectly. In pause menu.cs insert, let's add listener to quit button. On click to call our _confirm popup dot invoke confirm check. And inside this method call, we provide action type, which is the same we provided in addListener. Brackets assignment right sharp bracket followed by whatever we want to happen. I'm not sure if I said it before, but this is called lambda or anonymous function. Then in other addListeners, we as well swap our functionalities with invoke confirm check. And then whatever we had in addListeners. Playtest, typical argument missing exceptions, providing them in inspector. Fixing a bug with double _no button listener instead of one _yes. Proper playtests and confirm popup works. Next we work on having score to stop increasing after death. In score.cs we add serialized field descriptable, type naming it player descriptable and null reference check of course. We also add float type _speedup time for duration of speedup. In update method, we modify code to increase score only if game is not sped up and player is not panicked to be destroyed. isDestroy pending doesn't exist yet, but we add it straight away. So we add isDestroy pending to destructible.cs as property, public get, private set, and on start of process destroy, we set it to true, and that's all. Playtest, classic argument null exception, let's provide it in inspector. Proper playtest, something funny happens, score starts increasing only after death. So well, fixes one extra sign of exclamation mark. Playtest once again, and now it was as desired. In this playtest we see we can move camera after death, which is undesirable. So it is the next topic to work on. Disabling gameplay input after game over, while retaining UI input. To player input.cs I've added private variable input action asset with beautiful name of EAA. Then I was searching a lot how to get proper reference by checking available options after dot symbol suggestions, by searching Unity player input code and browser searches. Then I didn't find anything, so I changed type to input action map with exactly as ugly name as before of _MAPP. And searching once again how to get its reference. And well, after all that searches, finally I decided to delete new code from player input.cs and move it to destructible.cs. New header attribute for input and three variables below it, serialized field for input action asset reference, map name string, and non-serialized field input action map. Two of them with the same beautiful names of _EAA and _EAM. Don't do that at home, please. For validity checks in awake we do null reference check for input action asset. String is null or white space for _map name. For input action map, to get it we do _input action asset get action map name and check for null reference of method return. Then in process destroy we disable input action map. Then we provide values for serialized field variables in inspector. Playtest, all is Gucci, move on. Next, let's do saving higher score. So there is the right way and there is a fast way of saving system. Since this is go with the flow type of programming, we go with the fast way. And the fast way is to use player prefs. It is more meant to save like settings than game state, but it can be used to save game state as well, with some limitations. But it's quite easy to use. Development of this section was quite chaotic, so I will just provide the final code in this case. First, in score.cs we create public const string prefs _key variable with value of high score. It will be used to identify exact name in player prefs. It is useful to have it as one variable instead of typing it everywhere due to possibility of human errors mistyping and in case we change it later. Public means visible everywhere in code. Const means the value is compile time constant. It cannot be calculated based on anything. Must be known right after code is compiled. Const also makes it a static variable, meaning this variable is not part of any object, so every instance of score.cs will point to the same variable. Big letters casing is my preferred style for const variables, but there are different tastes as well. Then there is a new script of score_bestReader.cs. It is meant to be attached to text UI, game object of best score value. tmp_text variable without serialized field, using get component and null reference checks. And very simple actual code in start method, _text.text assign player prefs .getInt score.prefs key to string. We assign to tmp_text variable property text what we read from player prefs of type int and string key we have set in score.prefs key const variable. Since return value is int, we need to change it to string type. Then we attach this new script score_bestReader.cs to best score UI game objects in both start menu and score UI during gameplay. The last finished part of saving best score is in score.cs script. There was actually some debugging and experimenting, as you can see by commented out debug.log functions. So if statement is what interests us. In update, which is not ideal, we check if player destruction has started and make sure we do it only once. Inside if statement, we set once variable to true, meaning it has happened. Then we read and set int local variable from player prefs value of const string prefs underscore key using player prefs dot get int prefs underscore key. Then if red value is lower than current score, we overwrite it with current score using player prefs dot set int prefs underscore key and underscore score parameters. And that's it for saving the score. Last part of this video will be making game over menu. So because I had no patience making UI from scratch, I just dragged pause menu prefab, unpacked prefab into scene, renamed it to game over menu, and then deleted one unnecessary resum button. Then dragged vertical layout to middle and added title TMP Pro text with font size of 60. Text set to game over, new line, what next? Question mark. Then I added to score best reader.cs refresh method that just reads best score from player prefs and added it to be called instart. Exact line underscore text.text assign player prefs dot get int brackets score dot prefs underscore key. It's a constant variable, close brackets, dot to string. Then in the retrieval.cs, in very early way, I get all scorebestreader.cs scripts present in open scenes and call just created refresh method on all of them. Then back in inspector, I've created new script gameover.cs where we will attach this menu to other code. After creating it, remember to attach it to GameObject and of course copy paste code from pause menu, fix references using Ctrl plus dot menu using Unity Engine UI, remove resume button and all lines that used it. Also click on exceptions and scene utility, Ctrl and dot, import using system and import using Unity Engine.scene management. Also seems I didn't copy all, so now let's copy start method, remove resume button code. Of course, in ideal world, I wouldn't copy it, but make separate outer methods and use it in both places. But this is whatever means as soon as possible coding style. In this version, I did delete underscore confirm popup reference, but it will be recovered at some point. I've also deleted underscore timescale cache variable. Next in editor comes referencing button game objects to script and my menu scene name. Disable game object and apply all scene changes to prefab. These two lines are as come. Find first object by type, game over menu, include inactive. And save it to variable GOM. Then just set game object active to true. Playtest. I've forgotten to set timescale to 0 and set cursor visible after showing game over menu. Lost change, I don't exactly remember why, but I've decided in score.cs to change start method from underscore text.text assign 0 in quotes to score assigned 0. Some playtests and I was happy with the actual result. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed or it helped, please like, comment, subscribe or share. It helps a lot. Peace.